Bennedict Mathurin, a wing out of Arizona, took the vaunted sophomore leap last season. Under new head coach Tommy Lloyd, Mathurin had a breakout sophomore campaign, including maybe his best game of the season in the second round of the NCAA tournament against TCU. Mathurin increased his points per game by around 7 and also doubled his assist output in his sophomore year. Mathurin's biggest strength is his three-point shooting. While his 37% shooting clip last season isn't the most impressive number without context, the way Mathurin knocked down shots flying off of screens with defenders in his face, while also showcasing the ability to hit threes off the dribble, Mathurin is maybe the most well-rounded shooter in this year's draft. Mathurin also has good athleticism. While he may not be quantified as a freak athlete, Mathurin had many powerful dunks on the season, he's a lob target, and in the right situation, he can put a poster on you. Mathurin is also a lethal player playing off the ball offensively. While he's really good flying off screens for three-point looks, he's also a very good cutter. Mathurin reads situations well offensively when he's off the ball, and this will be a good trait to have in the NBA when he's playing off better players. But in terms of creating himself, he has shown some significant flashes of creation ability. While it isn't consistent yet due to a reason that we'll get into in a bit, Mathurin has shown enough flashes that you could put stock in him being potentially a secondary creator, and in the best case scenario, a primary one. This part of his game is what will determine how good of a player Mathurin becomes. And the fifth and final positive for Mathurin is his defensive upside. Mathurin has the physical tools at 6'5" with a 6'9" wingspan and an 8'8" standing reach to be a guy who can defend 1 through 3. The best defensive possessions last season showed Mathurin as having good lateral quickness and being able to stay in front of the ball. And if he's dedicated enough to the defensive side of the ball, Mathurin could truly become an elite 3-and-D player. However, Mathurin is hardly consistent defensively. He plays upright far too much, and there's times where he is not engaged enough on the defensive side of the ball. This could have been because he was the guy offensively at Arizona last season, so he may have been preserving energy for that side of the ball, but the defensive side is a little bit of a concern with him. He needs to do better getting through screens and closing out, but these things can be cleaned up. He has the upside on this end of the floor, however, it's not a sure thing. The second improvement area for Bennedict Mathurin is his ball handling. This is why he's not a consistent creator yet, and he had some bad turnovers last season where he was far too loose with his dribble. He's not somebody who's super creative with his handle or super shifty with it, and honestly, he might never be, but he just needs to become a more functional ball handler to handle situations better at the NBA level, and in order to help him play to his strengths. The third area of improvement for Mathurin is his in-between game. He showed that he can knock down a floater from time to time, but it's not consistent yet, and while he's a really good three-point shooter in a ton of different situations, Mathurin doesn't have a super good mid-range pull-up jump shot yet. He does have a high release point and is able to get a lot of lift on his jump shot, so he should be able to develop this part of his game, but he just needs to find the touch from this range. And the fourth improvement area for Mathurin is his overall playmaking. Improving his ball handling will help him become a better playmaker, but there was numerous times where he would miss reads or see reads too late when trying to make plays for others, and in order to reach his true ceiling, he needs to become a better initiator, a better facilitator, and a better pick and roll playmaker. So in case you haven't watched previous draft profiles, in the second part, I talk about how the prospects game translates to the NBA level, what I think their floor and their ceiling is, and what I think some good team fits are. Now, starting off with Bennedict Mathurin, he measured better at the NBA draft combine than I expected him to. I expected somewhere around a 8'6" standing reach, where maybe he was a guy a little bit undersized to play the small forward position, but an 8'8" standing reach is pretty average for a small forward, and I think that would be hypothetically the best position for Bennedict Mathurin on the NBA level. If not, then he's probably a 2-guard and a oversized 2-guard in my opinion. I think Mathurin's game translates pretty well to the NBA level. I think his shooting ability is going to translate beautifully to the NBA floor. He's going to get better three-point looks than he got last season at Arizona, in my opinion, playing off some better players where he's not the guy. And then he's shown that he can maybe be a little bit of a JJ Redick type of guy where he's just flying off screens, catching and putting up threes and knocking them down at a high clip, running off of pin downs, running off of curls, and just being that guy that you plug into an NBA offense as a movement shooter and run some sets for. And then given his shooting ability and being able to catch and shoot in those situations, he should be able to have some pretty good driving opportunities in my opinion. I think he'll be a guy that can beat closeouts at the NBA level. Guys have to close out on him hard given his high release, the lift he gets on his jump shot, and his ability to knock down, catch and shoot three-pointers. And then he's a guy that you have to try to stick on his hip when he's running off of screens. So that'll give him some opportunities to just catch the ball on the move and turn it into a driving opportunity. Now, the upside just comes with, can he turn that into some creation going downhill? Can he finish consistently around the rim? Can he knock down a mid-range jump shot when he's ran off the three-point line? Can he be a guy who you give the ball to and he can facilitate your offense, initiate things, run a pick and roll, and so forth? I think he truly has a chance to do that. I think that ball handling is one of the most easily developable skills in the NBA. And I like the way that Mathurin moves. That might seem kind of weird, but something that I look for in a lot of prospects, which has served me well at times in the past, has failed me at times in the past as well, but I look for how a player moves. I look for if they're light on their feet, if they're able to switch their footwork quickly, if they're creative with their footwork, and so forth. And honestly, I think from a creation standpoint, Bennedict Mathurin's lack of ball handling ability that he has right now is what is holding him back from truly being a guy that you could give the ball to and he could go make things happen. I think that as he improves his ball handling ability, he might surprise some people with the levels of creation that he presents. And I think he's about 2 to 3 years away from being a guy that you can give the ball to and he can consistently make plays off the dribble at the NBA level. But at a base minimum, he's going to be a three-point shooter, and then I think he's going to be a solid, probably good NBA defender. So that role translates really well from college to the NBA, being a guy who can be a 3-and-D player. I think that he will be more engaged and play with a better motor at the NBA level on the defensive end. Being the guy at Arizona, I think, took a lot out of him, and there was just possessions where it was like, dude, are you even trying right now? But there was possessions where I don't know if he got mad or if it was a good player and it was a personal challenge for him, but he showcased his defensive upside enough last season at Arizona to put some stock in him being a good defender. There was plays where he got into the ball and hounded the ball handler and stayed with them, stayed in front. There was plays where he would get through screens well, but there was other plays where he would just absolutely die on screens or get completely out of position. So it's a very mixed bag on the defensive end. I just think to start off his career, he's not going to be doing a whole lot with the ball in his hands like he was in college. He's just going to be getting three-point looks and probably cleaner three-point looks, so he should have more energy for the defensive side of the ball. So I think he translates into an immediate impact player, maybe an immediate starter on a decent team next year as a guy who can be a 3-and-D guy. And then obviously the upside is what he can develop in terms of being a guy off the dribble, because in terms of other intangibles, cutting, playing in transition, his athleticism, he has those as well. So it just comes down to his creation ability off the dribble for his upside, in my opinion. If he figures that out, I think his upside is a all-star caliber player. I look at a guy like a Devin Booker and the way he gets his shots, and I think that's a guy that Mathurin should watch a lot of. He has the high release point, the long wingspan, to be able to get shots off over defenders, has a lot of lift on his jumper. He just needs to get more creative in the mid-range. That'll happen with his ball handling, and he needs to figure out his in-between game. But you look at the craftiness of a Devin Booker, and I think that is the ultimate goal for Bennedict Mathurin, to just develop some level of craft off the dribble. And I don't think it's impossible for him to become a 20 to 25 point per game scorer in the league. Now, we're talking best case scenario, which obviously isn't the most likely scenario, so we're just talking pure optimism here, but I think he has a little bit more of a ceiling than some outlets give him credit for. At a bare minimum as a floor, I think he's a good three-point shooter and at least a mediocre defender, and that has a role on an NBA team, being a guy that can run off screens. I mean, JJ Redick made a career off of just being a three-point shooter that could then go downhill when he was ran off the three-point line and he wasn't a good defensive player. Now, I'm not saying Bennedict Mathurin is going to be the shooter that a JJ Redick was, but that archetype is a pretty valuable archetype to have off the bench, a guy that can come into a game and heat things up. And then, you know, his off-ball cutting and his athleticism will also make it so that he has a higher floor, in my opinion. So I would be shocked if he doesn't end up being a contributor on a solid team, at least off the bench. And then ceiling-wise, I think he does have an all-star level ceiling. As far as good team fits for Mathurin, I like the Portland Trailblazers. My Portland Trailblazers sitting there with the 7th overall pick for him. They need a starting small forward next year, and I think that could be Bennedict Mathurin. If they elect to draft him, they could use a guy that's an absolute sniper on three-point looks to play off of Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons, and then he can be a movement shooter playing off of both those guys, and long-term, an Anthony Simons and Bennedict Mathurin backcourt in their prime could be pretty damn scary. If Mathurin does end up going to the Portland Trailblazers, he need to truly buy in on the defensive end. That's what they need. I also love Mathurin's fit at 8 to the New Orleans Pelicans. He would be a really good backcourt fit next to CJ McCollum. He would help space the floor for Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. He would present a lot of size at that shooting guard position, and I think that would be one of the easier transitions for him going to the league. Indiana at 6 could make some sense as well. I think that's a little high for him, but playing off of Tyrese Halliburton and Chris Duarte could be a fun trio there. But Portland and New Orleans are definitely the best two landing spots for Mathurin, in my opinion. Anyway, that wraps up this draft profile. Let me know what you think about Bennedict Mathurin down in the comment section below. Check out the playlist for draft profiles. I'll link that in the description box below. I'm going to start dropping a bunch of these over the coming couple of weeks. So hopefully you're enjoying them, and hopefully you're enjoying the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like on this video. It really does help me out, and I'm out of here. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.